it's like we can't get a break. We can't get a break. And I understand it was for the right reason, but it's heartbreaking.
Homecoming celebrations on hold again due to the Morgan State University mass shooting. Still ahead, the message city leaders are sending to the possible suspects. And the Orioles' first postseason game ending in a loss, but that didn't stop O's fans from bringing the excitement right to Camden Yards. Still ahead, we'll take a look at the electrifying atmosphere that defined the night.
And I'm Wyatt Everhart. Yesterday's rain long gone, but the big chill now arriving into Maryland. We'll talk about just how much cooler the pattern sets up for this week. It's right here on Fox 45 Morning News.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you. Looking live over Towson this Sunday morning. It is October 8th, and it certainly feels like fall today. Good morning to you. I'm Taylor Stewart. It is time to get a look at your forecast. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart. It's certainly feeling like fall. Leaving the game yesterday, yeah. You really did need a jacket.
Yeah.
You did.
The temperatures just started to plummet, right? And this morning, I mean, some of us might even be using those car heaters, seats, right? Because the chill is out there. 49 now in Annapolis, 48 in Westminster. So those that were mourning, you know, the loss of October temperatures for a few days as we surged with the warmth, well, we got the chill back for you today, that's for sure. 45 now, Cockeysville, 46 in Frederick. These numbers are going to continue to run cool on a west wind. Wind chills are down in the low 40s this morning. So again, it is the full fall effect, if you will. The good news is all clear here on the radar satellite picture. So it's sunshine on tap today, but a very crisp start and only rising into the low 60s later today. We'll talk much more about how things trend for the week ahead coming up.
All right, we're starting off this morning with some breaking news. 2 people are in the hospital this morning after reports of shots fired during a homecoming at Bowie State University. This happened around 11:45 last night in Henry Circle. This is near the Center for Business and Graduate Studies. It's not clear right now who opened fire or if anyone is in custody this morning. Bowie State officials say the incident is under investigation by the Prince George's County Police Department. Now, this shooting comes just days after the Morgan State mass shooting. Both schools are a 45-minute drive from each other. Morgan State University postponed homecoming games and many of the festivities this weekend. Now, this morning, police are still searching for those responsible for injuring 5 people, 4 of them students, as $9,000 is now the reward being offered for any information that leads to an arrest. And City State Attorney Ivan Bates is now vowing to hold the shooters accountable. Maxine Stryker has the latest on the investigation.
It should have been a celebratory weekend at Morgan State University.
It's just sad that the innocent have to suffer from now for the guilty. So I hate that our weekend has to end like this.
Instead, homecoming festivities halted after a mass shooting Tuesday night injured 5 people, 4 of them students.
It was just like a ton of shots in a row, and then it stopped, and then more shots in a row.
And since the chaos unfolded on campus,
Can't get a break. We can't get a break. And I understand it was for the right reason, but it's heartbreaking.
a college tradition like no other has been tainted.
So when you're at a historically black college university, homecoming means so much. It truly is coming home.
Police say they're looking for 2 shooters and 4 persons of interest, announcing a $9,000 reward for any information that leads to an arrest.
Right now, we talk with the police about the investigation. I have been updated about that. Let's just say it is moving. Okay. And it is moving, I feel, in the right direction.
They believe the shooters were targeting an individual who ultimately was not shot.
Once individuals know they will be held accountable for these types of actions and acts, they will change their behavior.
Speaking on WBAL Radio's C4 and Brian Neiman show, Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates Friday promised those responsible will be held accountable.
When you sit down and look at it, now you could potentially have 4 or 5 counts of attempt murder. Each account holds life sentence. This individual is the type of individual, the type of case that we go to trial. We need to be asking for a life sentence. That's what we plan to do for the gentleman, Jason Billingsley.
Meanwhile, Mayor Brandon Scott is doubling down on his stance that the problems we're facing with gun violence in Baltimore are primarily a nationwide issue, and Congress will have to enact stricter gun legislation to make change.
I think that when you look at Maryland's laws around guns and gun violence. We have some of the best in the country. The guns are coming in from other places, other states. That is why this is a national issue. It's a both and, Mackenzie, not a either or.
Over the years in Annapolis, there have been a number of bills that would increase the penalties for committing violent crimes across the state. Those include the Violent Firearms Offenders Act and the Repeat Violent Offenders Act. Both stalled. We sent questions to Mayor Brandon Scott asking why he hasn't supported those policies. If the plans are introduced again this year, we asked, will he support the legislation and use his position to urge other lawmakers to support them as well? If not, what specific bills is he working with the Baltimore City delegation to introduce to hold gun offenders accountable? And is it time for mandatory minimums to be considered in Maryland for gun offenders? Our questions went ignored.
Additional security measures are now in place at Morgan State. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust Mayor Brandon Scott to keep your community safe? So far, 95% of people who have voted say no. You can make your voice heard right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote. We want to show you this video here. These are the persons of interest in the Morgan State shooting. Police shared this video. It appears to show a group of 4 people walking around campus. Anyone with information in this is asked to call police. That number, 1-866-7-LOCK-UP. Making headlines this morning, war in the Middle East. An early morning surprise attack from Hamas, leaving hundreds of people dead across southern Israel. Israel retaliated, leveling an entire apartment complex in just seconds. That incident killed more than 300 people. President Biden sending a strong message to the world after this terrorist attack.
This is not a moment for any party hostile to Israel to exploit these attacks to seek advantage. The world is watching.
The attack, saying his heart goes out to the impacted families. Congressman Andy Harris shared a message from Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying the United States will stand with Israel. And Congressman Jamie Raskin, who is Jewish, says he's horrified and outraged by these attacks. He's asking Americans to stand strong with Israel against vicious attacks of terrorism. The Baltimore Zionist District addressed the attacks this last afternoon, calling it unprecedented. The group condemned the attack, saying the ongoing barrage of rockets and missiles is a recurring nightmare in Israel, and they support the Israeli retaliation. Still ahead in our 8 o'clock hour, we're going to speak with a global conflict expert on how long this could last and the impact it could have on the global community. And of course, stick with Fox 45 News as we continue to follow this story and others as it unfolds over the next few days here. Stay up to date with our coverage by downloading the Fox 45 app. It's in your app store now. Just search WBFF. Chaos at Camden Yards. Still ahead, we take a look at how the rain could not dampen the spirits of Orioles fans lining up for the first home playoff game in nearly a decade.
And the rain did clear out just in time for the game. Now we've got clear skies for the second half of the weekend, but also the big chill coming in behind our cold front. We'll talk about how chilly things are by your Monday morning, and will we warm up again into the 70s?
All right, the Orioles postseason did not get off to a winning start, but the fans, okay, they showed plenty of excitement for the first playoff game at Camden Yards in 9 years. I spoke to some of the most passionate fans in Birdland. Take a listen to this. It's plays like these pulled by star sophomore pitcher Adley Rutschman.
And he will do just that.
And runs like these from George Mateo that have reinstilled confidence in O's fans.
We've waited so long for the Orioles to be what they are.
AL East Division champions, and for the first time in 7 years.
Come on, this is our year! Let's go!
Competing for the American League Division title.
Young and they're fun.
And good enough to turn a competitor.
I'm a Yankees fan.
Into a believer.
I know. But I'm wearing an Adley Rutschman shirt.
Adley's the guy. He's the guy. He's the guy. Grayson Rodriguez on the mound. Big moment at home.
Vets and rookies alike that are putting the O's and Baltimore back on the map.
This means everything. This means everything for the city. This means everything for the fans that were Oriole fans since they were 8 years old and watched the Melvin Moras, watched the Luke Scotts of the world. Let's go, Birds!
Paving the way for younger fans like
2 Beer Nate
and some early celebration dances.
Baltimore has always come out for their Orioles, even in those lean years.
But this certainly isn't one of them. From the locker room to the tailgate, that O's magic strong enough to score some love from even a Rangers fan.
Rangers!
Make no mistake, it's no holds barred from the stand.
I'm getting real loud! Real loud! Because the O's deserve the loudness! They know we need to get loud! Let's go O's!
What a day. Well, a fusion of prom night and roller rink fun, how does that sound to you? One local group is making a difference in a really unique and stylish way. Maryland's school superintendent has resigned after weeks of controversy. After the break, Project Baltimore investigations that raise serious questions over transparency within the State Department of Education. Stick with Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. Maryland State Superintendent of Schools Mohammed Chaudhry has resigned. As Chris Papps explains, his resignation follows a series of Project Baltimore investigations that raised serious questions over transparency within the State Department of Education and potential violations of the law.
Mohammed Chaudhry is stepping down after just 2 years as the Maryland State Superintendent of Schools, marking the end of a tumultuous term. In his final goodbye, he penned this op-ed in the Baltimore Sun, touting what he calls critical progress. But Project Baltimore took a closer look at his performance. The op-ed, published this week in the Baltimore Sun, reflects on Chaudhry's 2+ years leading the State Department of Education and reads as a record of his accomplishments. Among them, Chaudhry cites improvement on state test scores, saying literacy results are better than before the pandemic. And in math, students are showing signs of recovery from COVID learning loss. While literacy rates have improved across the state, lagging math scores continue to raise alarm. Project Baltimore analyzed the spring 2023 state test results and found at least 200 Maryland schools where 5% or fewer students tested proficient in math. We also found 13 Baltimore City high schools where 0 students among those tested scored proficient in math. The op-ed does not address math scores in Baltimore City, but Chaudhry does say grant funding under his leadership helps city schools improve English test scores by 4.5 percentage points in grades 3 through 8. That is also true. But even with the improvement, only 25% of 3rd through 8th graders in Baltimore City schools are proficient in English. That's the lowest in the state by 5 full percentage points.
These schools are 5 minutes from this building.
In June, Chaudhry acknowledged strained relations with lawmakers in Annapolis, even writing an apology letter for his missteps. But in this op-ed, he says he changed the way the Maryland State Department of Education functions, making it an effective operation. That is not what we heard from former employees like Robert Eccles, who testified before the state board, saying Chaudhry's leadership created a toxic workplace culture.
Transformational leaders actually lead people and don't disparage them. They invite feedback and can take criticism without retaliation.
In this op-ed, Chaudhry never says why he's leaving, but his resignation follows a series of Project Baltimore investigations that raise concerns about his leadership.
Mr. Superintendent, have you ever used the Signal application and commission of your job?
I have no comment. Thank you much. Appreciate it. For my job?
Well, Project Baltimore first showed you that video last month, exposing how Chaudhry used the encrypted messaging app Signal to conduct state business. We obtained screenshots, some of which appear to show Chaudhry berating an employee, supporting allegations that the superintendent created a toxic workplace culture.
This I pondered for months, taking this stand.
Days after Fox 45 broke that story, 3 Republican lawmakers took a strong stance, calling on Chaudhry to step down immediately.
And if you're not going to have the transparency, let somebody else do it.
At the same time, Governor Wes Moore, a Democrat, also came out strong when asked about Project Baltimore's reporting.
I want transparency, I want accountability, and I want a superintendent that believes in it and can deliver it.
Just 9 days after Project Baltimore exposed how Chaudhry used that encrypted messaging app for work, he announced he would step down. But this was not the first time that he had come under fire. Project Baltimore, this past summer, also reported how Chaudhry used a secondary email account to conduct state business, and that his state-issued cell phone was set to auto-delete text messages after 30 days. 12 of those messages were deleted after Fox 45 filed a public records request to obtain them, a potential violation of state law. Months before that, we exposed how MSDE, without telling the public, removed state test scores from its website, heavily redacted them, and then reposted them, a move that kept parents and taxpayers from seeing how poorly some schools are performing.
Mr. Chaudhry.
That decision by MSDE sparked backlash. But when we tried to question Chaudhry about it,
test scores on the website,
he locked himself behind a door. In the wake of our findings, lawmakers and special interest groups have demanded answers, asking the Attorney General, State Prosecutor, and Inspector General for Education to investigate.
There cannot continue to be
scandal after scandal after scandal.
These schools are not thriving.
All of this proved to be too much. Sources within the State Department of Education told us the school board's support for Chaudhary deteriorated with each new Project Baltimore finding. The state superintendent agreed to resign and transition to a new role as senior advisor to the state school board. His $310,000 salary will stay the same until his contract expires in June 2024. Now, the state board will conduct a nationwide search for the next state superintendent of Maryland Public Schools. The state school board appointed Dr. Carrie Wright as the interim superintendent until a permanent replacement can be found. Dr. Wright served as the Mississippi state superintendent, where she's credited with improving literacy scores. Project Baltimore in the coming weeks will take a closer look at what Dr. Wright did to improve those reading scores in Mississippi, a state that had been struggling for decades. And could those strategies also work in Maryland? I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
All right, look, folks, we are in fall, and it feels like it. It's kind of nice and brisk out there in the morning. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be like that. We're here. We're in it, Wyatt. Okay.
Get the latte machines fired up, the hot coffee.
The PSLs.
The whole nine. We got the pumpkin pie in the oven, too, because this is like 50 degrees now, but the wind chill is colder than that. And we do have a lot of sunshine, so that's the bright note for you, literally. West breeze is pretty stout, too. 50 degrees right now in Baltimore. Most spots around the city are as cooler. In fact, Joppatown, 47, Eldersburg, 46. All on a west-northwesterly wind that will pick up a little bit. These winds diminish right before sunrise, and they start to ramp up during the course of the day as the atmosphere starts to mix up. And so wind chill factors now in the mid-40s. So you're out there first thing this morning, you're layering up, you're running, you're putting on that Under Armour base layer probably for the first time this season. And look at this drop. I mean, 20 degrees cooler than the same time yesterday in spots across the state like La Plata. Maybe it's a good day to stay inside and watch some football here on Fox 45. If you're going to do so, you still got a nice day to run out and grab some extra snacks or whatever you need for the game. Mid-upper 60s out there, 64 on a high today with plenty of sunshine on tap for us. Widespread clear weather. No travel trouble spots anywhere in the mid-Atlantic today. The rain from yesterday is well up to our north now. I'm talking basically out of the country into northeastern Canada. So just a few fair weather clouds on and off through the day today. Weather continues to look pretty darn nice. Overall pattern clear behind that cold front. Dry conditions, fall-like weather for sure. Tough to get much above 60 today. And then into the early part of tomorrow, kicking off a chilly start to the week. I know a lot of us have the holiday on Monday, but basically this is a crisp start, mid-60s by Monday afternoon. The trend is actually a warming one, though. After a couple very fall-like days, we're going to get back. And remember, the average high temperature this time of year, 72. So 70 on Tuesday, 74 Wednesday. Warmest day of the outlook is going to be into Thursday. So overall, it is a warming trend, in fact, until we get probably in the next weekend. Looks like another shot of cool air, maybe a storm system to bring a little more precipitation around here into next weekend. In the meantime, golden autumn sunshine and crisp nights, that's for sure.
Sounds great. Strong words about juvenile crime from a local community leader. Why he says Governor Wes Moore needs to take a stronger stance. And the back and forth continues in Harford County. Why the sheriff says he and the county executive aren't odds. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. Okay, get this. Haunted houses will not be the only thing scaring you this October. So will the prices, okay? Halloween spending trends have been increasing over recent years, but how much will you spend on the holiday this year? According to the National Retail Federation, Americans spent roughly $10 billion in 2021. In 2022, that number jumped to $10.6 billion. That report shows most people spend their money on candy. Up next, the home decorations, and then third on the list, costumes. So what does that mean for you? How can you save here? Experts suggest buying in bulk to make your dollar go further and buy off-season to help lower the cost. The Rangers hold off on the O's to take Game 1 in the ALDS. What went wrong during this loss? That's still ahead during Sports Unlimited. And this weekend ending with plenty of sunshine and cool temperatures. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart lets us know when we can expect a warm-up. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
7:31 now, looking live over Camden Yards. We did not take the win, but I got to tell you, Orioles magic certainly in the air. Good morning to you. It's Sunday, October 8th. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's talk about your forecast, though. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart, you can see that sun just gleaming off of Camden Yards. So we do know it's sunny outside, but I see the temperatures.
Yeah, it was just an exciting finish to the game.
It was.
Right? This last couple innings, I mean, just a nail biter. Anyway, 52 now, Baltimore City, but there are plenty of spots in the upper 40s only this morning. That is the real fall chill that has arrived for sure. At least for a day or two here, we're going to be in the chill. And the numbers right now, again, looking at 40s in many spots. Cockeysville, 44. Gaithersburg, 47. You definitely need the fleece at least as you head out the door this morning. Prepare also for some breezy conditions today. Now, winds right now, 10 to 15. They're going to pick up during the course of the day. We get a little more atmospheric mixing going on. So wind chill factors are going to stay in effect. We've got low 40s this morning for the real field temperature. And even during the course of the day with all the sunshine warming up, widespread sunshine as high pressure builds in. The bottom line is we're still going to have a definite nip in the air, if you will, at least for the first half of the day. Now, this afternoon, we do climb our way into the low mid 60s. But keep in mind, with the breeze out there, probably going to feel just a little cooler than that. We'll talk more about how chilly things get to start off your Monday and how things trend into the week ahead. It's all coming up.
We're not going to put up with this any longer. We're not going to allow our neighborhoods and our communities to be ravaged by violence.
Those strong words from the president of the Randallstown NAACP. He's talking about the juvenile crime crisis. He talked one-on-one with our Vincent Hale to discuss what he wants the governor to do to address the issue.
We should be outraged. I mean, we should be doing all we can do to stop this.
Outrage from NAACP President Ryan Coleman over Baltimore's juvenile crime crisis, including the multiple mass shootings involving teens.
4 or 5 people being shot at a time is almost the norm here in Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, it's out of hand. And whatever we're doing isn't working and isn't effective enough.
Coleman calling on Governor Westmore to do more.
The crime issue is a big political issue.
So what's your message to the governor when it comes to the crime that's going on here in Baltimore?
As far as some of the juvenile justice laws, I think we have an obligation to look at those, you know, to see if they're contributing to what's going on. The police are saying they are, others are saying they're not. So let's get what the facts are and see, and if it is, how can we tweak those? The juvenile justice, the car thefts, a lot of that is individuals from Baltimore City.
Many of those juveniles released to their parents.
I think we need to start holding these juveniles accountable. A lot of ways, they're the way they are because of the parents. So why would we release them to their parents with no resources? But is it really controversial that if a juvenile steals a car 3 and 4 times, that they shouldn't be on home monitoring, that they shouldn't be placed in a residential facility?
According to Baltimore police, juvenile violent crime is up 50%, and the violence appears to be the norm.
We can't have it become normal, where a 15-year-old is killed outside of a school and it's a one-day conversation.
Referring to the murder of Rashid Maxwell, shot and killed near Gilmore Elementary.
We cannot keep giving them a little tap on the hand and then not provide resources.
Now, Fox 45 News has heard from more than a dozen state's attorneys across Maryland who represent about 5.4 million people. That's 87% of the state's population. They say their hands are tied when it comes to holding young offenders accountable.
They know that, you know, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crime.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day.
We all have the same sad song, no matter where we are in the state.
State attorneys are taking issue with 2 laws in particular here. The Juvenile Justice Reform Act, that limits children 13 and under from facing most charges. And then there's the Child Interrogation Act. It prevents police from questioning juvenile suspects without an attorney and a parent's permission. All right, more political infighting this morning in Harford County. It's between County Executive Bob Casserly and Sheriff Jeff Gaylor. Sheriff Gaylor is accusing County Executive Casserly of defunding the police in his proposal for the next year's budget. Gaylor also expressed frustration over Casserly's move to halt plans for a new Central Precinct Training Academy. In a letter to the sheriff this week, Casserly accuses him of malicious and false attacks, telling Gaylor serious budget shortfalls would result from his proposal to expand the sheriff's office operations by an additional $22 million. Casserly saying we cannot build facilities and add positions that exceed our county revenue. He points out that taxpayers would suffer as a result. Gaylor asked for classrooms to accommodate police students. Now, Casserly responded saying he can offer refurnished facilities to serve as classrooms. The sheriff then responded in a letter saying Casserly has run a persistent misinformation campaign on the sheriff's office budget. He says they're going to take training locations that have been offered, but they have no other options. But using conference rooms as classrooms is just not a viable option and provides many unnecessary challenges. We reached out to both of their offices for comment on Saturday. Gaylor saying, in part, in just 10 short months, Casserly has done more to damage public safety, the safety of our communities, than we have ever had in the misfortune to witness. He continues to demonstrate that he lacks the character and perhaps the competence to actually do the job which he was elected. Casley's team also sent us a statement saying, in part, Sheriff Gaylor remains bitter that I did not give him the additional $23 million in operating funds or precinct training building he's demanding. He continues to attack my fiscal responsibility as unnecessary and to retaliate with endless personal attacks. Police in Prince George's County are revealing a breakthrough in a series of retail thefts. The haul police found and why those business owners say they're not surprised.
I'm Wyatt Everhart. Our cold front has pushed through the state, is now offshore, but behind it, the gates to Canada are wide open this morning. We'll talk about how long the chill holds and what the trend it brings as we go toward next weekend. It's coming up right here on Fox 45 Morning News, all local.
Prince George's County Police announcing arrest in what they call a string of retail thefts. 3 people accused of targeting the same location 5 times in a single week. Brad Belt, our affiliate in D.C., has the story.
Since mid-September, it's been a near daily nightmare for stores in the Rivertown Shopping Center in Oxon Hill. Groups of thieves cleaning off store shelves.
They come in, they will look around, and sometimes it's 1 or 2 or 3, just depending, and then snatch and grab. Just a snatch and grab situation, and they just run out.
Eddie is a regional manager of the Last Stop store here. He says it's been even worse at the store next door.
And they get hit big time.
So police have been looking for the getaway car spotted after the thefts, and this week they found it. The break leading to the arrest of these 3 people, 18, 19, and 26 years old. And when police searched their home, they found these piles of stolen goods. Police say the trio hit this one store, this Bath and Body Works off of Oxon Hill Road, 7 times over the course of a couple of weeks, each time stealing thousands of dollars worth of merchandise.
They would come in, they would put all the merchandise in a bag, they would flee out in a vehicle, and away they would go.
PGPD Captain Craig Weingartner says the 3 are currently facing charges connected to 10 different snatch and grab thefts. At the shopping center, there's hope it leads to at least a pause in the crime. But even Weingartner admits it's become a fad and a damaging one.
The problem with these incidents is it causes these big box stores to shutter their doors and close, and it impacts the local economy, it takes away jobs from the community, and it has a ripple effect across the area.
In Oxon Hill, Maryland, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
Look, we've seen a number of problems with retail theft right here in Baltimore as well. At least 2 restaurants near Camden Yards have been broken into in recent weeks. And in one case, the owner telling Fox 45 News those thieves smashed through his door, ran off with a cash register and bottles of alcohol. This year, we've also seen businesses forced to close their doors because of theft. That includes Eddie's in Mount Vernon. This happened earlier this summer. The owners of the beloved grocery store have been victim of theft several times. At one point, they had knives pulled on them. We've also heard from a number of business owners who say they want the city to do more to keep them safe, and their calls have gone unanswered.
But when you try to apply for it, it's just one hurdle over another hurdle, and you don't get frustrated and you just give up. Do they care? I don't know.
These incidents that they happen is a downfall, not of the business, is a downfall of the security of the city.
Retail theft is a growing problem across the country. Our affiliate in D.C. captured this video of empty shelves. Just look at that. This is a CVS. Sources say because of shoplifting. In Philadelphia last week, several stores were looted across the city. You can look at this video right here. People breaking into those stores through the windows, taking bags full of items. 72 people have since been charged in connection with the looting in Philly. The National Retail Federation just released its annual security survey. It shows so-called shrinkage accounted for more than $112 billion in lost assets. That's an industry term for measuring inventory loss, which isn't always a result of theft. However, thefts do account for 2/3 of retail shrinkage. Baltimore City Police continue to search for the people responsible for the mass shooting at Morgan State University. Still ahead, how you can help in this investigation. And Hamas launching a surprise attack on Israel. Still ahead, how long the chaos will last in the region. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local. All right, lace those skates up, grab a prom gown. A local Derby team is hosting a roller prom. It's an effort to recruit and raise money for a new rink. Photojournalist Casey Fair takes us to the dance.
Why not the 80s? It's October, so it's the Halloween month, so we go roller prom and kind of glam 80s. Usually if they hear Derby, then they think, oh, there's going to be hitting. There's no hitting tonight. It's just like an open skate. Everyone's just rolling around, having fun. If someone falls, it might be because of their own 2 feet, not because someone hit them.
I just love that story because sometimes you just want to see the people doing the thing. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart, can you roller skate?
I don't even know anymore. I've been a few years. Right?
Been a few years?
A few years, yeah. I will say this, a lot better on the roller skates than the ice skates. Ice skates, no go. Carousel in Ocean City, tried several times.
We're almost in that season, though, so you might have to put him back on and try. I mean, we're almost there.
We were more into skateboarding. I grew up down in Ocean City. We were more into skateboarding.
Okay.
Ice skating, though, we tried, though, right? Like or something. Didn't work out well for me anyway. Take a look at this. It's starting to feel more like ice skating weather out there. I'll say that. 40s this morning. We did squeak up to 50 already at PWI, but keep in mind with that west wind, the wind chill is feeling colder. Okay, so widespread, 40s and low 50s this morning. Brooklyn Park, you're at 49, 48 in Elkridge right now. Wider view, look at this. Cool northwesterly flow continuing to push into the area. And those wind chill factors, what does it really feel like? Yeah, only mid 40s to, in some spots, upper 30s toward North Beach down there. High wind on the water. Look at Oakland out toward Deep Creek Lake. Yeah, there's a good ice skating spot. 30 right now, the real field temperature in western Maryland. This is about a 17 to 20 degree drop in many places from the same time yesterday morning. So if you're the fall weather fan and you're like, man, I was not digging those above average temperatures the last few days, well, now we've got the chill for you, right? Climbing into the low mid 60s today, but remember the real field temperatures are going to be more like the 50s all day on that cool northwesterly wind and flow. A few showers coming in off the Great Lakes. Give it another month. These will probably be lake effect snow showers. For now, though, just some rain showers coming off the Great Lakes there. We're clear. Nothing more than a few fair weather clouds today. I think mostly sunny most of the day. So you're headed out and about. Sunglasses required. Maybe you're making that early trek up to Pittsburgh for the big Ravens game there. Always a battle. Partly cloudy and even cooler. Real feels in the upper 40s in Pittsburgh today. So that's going to be a day to wear the Ravens fleece and then some in Pittsburgh today at Three River. Partly cloudy skies, that's the story the next couple of days. I think we're going to have a lot of sunshine around. You want to keep the sunglasses handy all week, but the extra layer will be needed each and every morning, at least through midweek, because the daytime highs, while reaching above 60, nighttime lows are going to be down to 40s. Tomorrow morning, talking about 30s. If you're an early bird on the road tomorrow morning, definitely, maybe even kind of like a light winter jacket. However, we do go much milder by tomorrow afternoon. Here's the trend. Next several days, you're a warm weather fan. Good news for you as well. We bounce back pretty nicely there. Wednesday and Thursday look to be the two warmest days of the week, getting back to the mid and upper 70s. The rest of the outlook here featuring basically partly to mostly sunny skies. Still more of that great fall weather we get so often here mid-September to mid-October in Maryland. Cooler, though, next weekend. That's our next chance of a real storm system. Next weather maker likely due in toward Friday and Saturday of next week.
All right, well, game 2 for the Orioles versus the Texans Rangers happening this afternoon. After the break, Rocco DeSalvo is going to let us know what we can expect from the O's today after yesterday's loss. Stick with us here at Fox 45 Morning News, all local. Oh,
Welcome into your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. The O's 7-year postseason drought officially over, and Birdland flocked to Camden Yards to show their support to the team that gave them a new sense of hope. Seeing that place packed, it's something special. The sellout crowd of 46,000 plus was rocking for Game 1 of the ALDS. O's ace Kyle Bradish on the mound, and he was grooving early on. Gets Josh Young swinging to end the top half of the second. Check out the camera angle. Great point of view there. 9 strikeouts on the day for Bradish, but in the fourth, the Rangers jumped on him for 2. Evan Carter doubles down the right field line to bring in Adolis Garcia. 1-0 Rangers. The very next batter's Jonah Heim, and he comes up with a big RBI single to make it 2-0 Rangers. Short outing for Bradish, 4 2/3, 2 earned on 7 hits. He did strike out 9. In the bottom half of the inning, Ryan Mountcastle doubles to left to score Anthony Santander. And just check out the crowd at Camden Yards. They erupted. Makes it 2-1. Look at the rally towels. Love it. To the 6th we go. Jacob Webb pitching for the O's. Josh Young takes him yard. 4-0-3 to center. Rangers take a 3-1 lead. Bottom half of the frame. Santander with a monster shot of his own. And just check out the crowd. I can't emphasize it enough. I mean, it is great when Camden Yards is rocking. What a scene. But it's not enough in this one as the Rangers take Game 1 by a final score of 3-2. So the O's fall in Game 1, dropping the first of this best-of-5 series. But it's a game where they were in until the very end and had plenty of chances to win. Morgan Adson is at Camden Yards with more on what went wrong.
World Series champion with the Chicago Cubs, now Orioles manager Brandon Hyde, told me before October baseball got underway it takes 2 things to win a World Series: good defense and starting pitching. The O's were lacking the latter today. In Game 1 of the ALDS, starter Kyle Bradish in his postseason debut had one of his shortest outings of the season, 4 2/3. One bad inning came in the fourth, 5 hits and 2 runs, and that was the difference that allowed Texas to take a 1-0 series lead.
You know, he gave up a couple runs there in the fourth, but I thought he was still throwing the ball well, mainly some singles, some ground ball singles, and I didn't think he was as sharp as he's usually, but he punched out 9 and had really good stuff.
It also didn't help Bradish that he didn't have run support in Game 1. The O's had chances late in the 8th and 9th, but the Orioles lineup with some big bats were silenced. Austin Hayes, Adley Rutschman, and Cedric Mullins were all hitless. The opposite for Anthony Santander. He was 2 for 3 with a home run and a walk in the O's 3-2 loss.
We went out there and just took our at-bats. I mean, the ball doesn't fall the way it wanted to. Sometimes it's just baseball.
Coming up in big moments, it can't happen every time. You know, it just is what it is. So, you know, preparing for tomorrow, locking in on opportunities when they arrive, and, you know, trying to execute them.
So now the focus shifts to Game 2 on Sunday. Grayson Rodriguez has the start in his postseason debut. We will eventually see Dean Kramer and Kyle Gibson starting for the Birds this week. Brandon Hyde has not released the order of those starts, but there will be no John Means in the O's rotation for the ALDS. Left off the roster with elbow soreness suffered during workouts. They hope to have him back if they advance to the ALCS. Reporting at Camden Yards, I'm Morgan Adson for Sports Unlimited.
Thank you, Morgan. This is what the remaining ALDS schedule looks like. Back at it again today for Game 2 at 4. Then the 2 teams will head to Texas for Game 3 on Tuesday at 8:03 p.m. You can catch the action right here on Fox 45, followed by the if necessary games. 4 would be played in Texas, 5 would be back here in Baltimore. Fox 45 is your home for the 2023 World Series. The action begins Friday, October 27th. You can watch every single game right here, Fox 45. It might be week 5 on the schedule, but the Ravens-Steelers rivalry is unlike any regular season game. This game brings the best out of both teams, players, and coaching staffs, and it's one that means just a bit more. Just listen to Mark Andrews talk about it.
You know, we talk about being lasered in week by week, and you know, obviously the Ravens-Steelers game is you know, one of the best rivalries in the world, and you know, if you're not ready for a game like this, you know, what are you doing? But for us, being able to focus out here on practice, knowing what to do, visualize the moment, and make the plays when they come.
5-0 for the first time in 22 years. Maryland football faced its toughest challenge yet in 4th-ranked Ohio State. A win over the Buckeyes, it would be huge for the Terps, and they looked really good early on. Urban Meyer had a front-row seat for this unbelievable catch. Talia Tagovailoa fires it to the end zone. Caden Prater, how in the world? Defender draped all over him. Prater only needs one hand to haul it in. 7-0 Terps. Tied at 10 in the third, Leah looking, decides to use his legs, and he cruises in for 6, his 3rd straight game with at least 1 passing touchdown and 1 rushing touchdown. Terps take the lead, but Ohio State took the lead back and never looked back. Kyle McCord dials up Cade Stover for the 44-yard score. Talia, 196 yards passing, 2 picks, and 2 total touchdowns as Ohio State hands Maryland its first loss, 37-17. That'll do it for this edition of Sports Unlimited. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Have a great Sunday.
Breaking overnight, 2 people are in the hospital after shots were fired at Bowie State University. This comes just days after the mass shooting at Morgan State that left 5 people injured, 4 of them students. We've got updates on both of those investigations. And in Israel this morning, the death toll continues to rise after yesterday's surprise attack by Hamas militants. At 8:30, we're sitting down with an expert to talk about what led up to this and what's next.
I'm Wyatt Everhart. The cooler air is into Maryland. Low 50s this morning with 40s off to the west. We'll talk about how long the fall chill lasts. Straight ahead here on Fox 45 Morning News.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Thanks for being with us. You're looking live over Towson as that sun is up. But boy, there's a little chill in the air today. It's Sunday, October 8th. I'm Taylor Stewart, and let's get to your forecast because meteorologist Wyatt Everhart is talking about some lower temperatures today, certainly feeling like the thick of fall.
Yes, quite a bit lower. This is that kind of, that fall chill we've been waiting for, right? It has arrived this morning. 52 Aberdeen, 51 in Annapolis, 48 in Westminster. Keep in mind that this does not reflect the wind chill factor. Okay, so the sunshine out there feels good already, but we've got the wind chill to deal with as well. Temperatures, again, widespread upper 40s and low 50s on the board here this morning. But that west wind will be picking up as we go into the midday. Atmosphere kind of mixes up. That's going to mean the wind chill factor remains a factor all day long, pun intended. So feeling more like 50s today at best, though the air temps will actually get above 60. lots of sunshine. So I would tell you sunglasses out the door this morning, but also definitely that extra layer. And even toward the afternoon, maybe you're going to go over to a friend's house to take in the Ravens-Pittsburgh game. Watch that. Maybe you're in and out of the house some. You're going to need the fleece layer because low 60s, sure, but also with that wind chill feeling more like 50s. We'll talk about how things trend in the week ahead coming up.
Breaking news overnight. 2 people waking up in the hospital this morning after shots were fired during homecoming celebrations at Bowie State University. This happened around 11:45 near Henry Circle. This is right near the Center for Business Graduate Studies. It's not clear yet who opened fire or if anybody is in custody this morning. Bowie State officials say this incident is under investigation by the Prince George's County Police Department. It comes just days after the Morgan State mass shooting. Now, this school from Bowie, 45 minutes apart from each other, Morgan State University had to postpone the homecoming game and canceled all of its festivities. Now, this morning, police are still searching for those responsible. They released this video here, and they say after 4 people were students who were hit, 5 people in total shot, they've now raised the reward to $9,000. If you know anything about this, give them a call. But the city state's attorney is saying he will hold those shooters accountable. Maxine Stryker has the latest on the investigation.
It should have been a celebratory weekend at Morgan State University.
It's just sad that the innocent have to suffer now for the guilty. So I hate that our weekend has to end like this.
Instead, homecoming festivities halted after a mass shooting Tuesday night injured 5 people, 4 of them students.
It was just like a ton of shots in a row, and then it stopped, and then more shots in a row.
And since the chaos unfolded on campus,
Can't get a break. We can't get a break. And I understand it was for the right reason, but it's heartbreaking.
A college tradition like no other has been tainted.
So when you're at a historically black college university, homecoming means so much. It truly is coming home.
Police say they're looking for 2 shooters and 4 persons of interest, announcing a $9,000 reward for any information that leads to an arrest.
Right now, we talk with the police about the investigation. I have been updated about that. Let's just say it is moving. Okay. And it is moving, I feel, in the right direction.
They believe the shooters were targeting an individual who ultimately was not shot.
Once individuals know they will be held accountable for these types of actions and acts, they will change their behavior.
Speaking on WBAL Radio's C4 and Brian Neiman show, Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates Friday promised those responsible will be held accountable.
When you sit down and look at it, now you could potentially have 4 or 5 counts of attempt murder. Each account holds life sentence. This individual is the type of individual, the type of case that we go to trial, we need to be asking for a life sentence. That's what we plan to do for the gentleman, Jason Billingsley.
Meanwhile, Mayor Brandon Scott is doubling down on his stance that the problems we're facing with gun violence in Baltimore are primarily a nationwide issue, and Congress will have to enact stricter gun legislation to make change.
I think that when you look at Maryland's laws around guns and gun violence, we have some of the best in the country. The guns are coming in from other places, other states. That is why this is a national issue. It's a both and, Mackenzie, not an either or.
Over the years in Annapolis, there have been a number of bills that would increase the penalties for committing violent crimes across the state. Those include the Violent Firearms Offenders Act and the Repeat Violent Offenders Act. Both stalled. We sent questions to Mayor Brandon Scott asking why he hasn't supported those policies. If the plans are introduced again this year, we asked will he support the legislation and use his position to urge other lawmakers to support them as well. If not, what specific bills is he working with the Baltimore City delegation to introduce to hold gun offenders accountable? And is it time for mandatory minimums to be considered in Maryland for gun offenders? Our questions went ignored.
Police have now offered a $9,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest. We want to bring in Giovanni Patterson, the chairman of Peace, here as this investigation gets underway. You just heard City State Attorney Ivan Bates say people do this because they know they won't be held accountable. How do you think the laws at play impact the gun violence we're seeing now bleed onto college campuses for a 3rd year at homecoming at Morgan and now Bowie?
Well, look, I mean, people are doing this because they know they can get away with it. Right, and here's something I actually agree with Mayor Scott on. Right, we looked at the death of Pavel Lapierre and how quickly, there was a suspect, and someone, being
identified.
arrested for that. But oftentimes, in particularly the black community, we don't share that information. In the case of Morgan State, there are people that know, right? And I think Morgan State is correct in locking things down, not holding any activities until someone is found. But again, it goes back to accountability, right? If they know there's going to be consequences for these actions, then these actions won't happen.
We talk a lot of times about the laws at play and how they impact gun violence in our area. When you think about the lack of ramifications for violent offenders, for repeat offenders, how emboldened do you think that allows them to be? Because we're looking at this investigation now from a bird's eye view and saying, hopefully we find these guys. But should this have happened in the first place? Would this have happened in the first place if there were consequences?
Well, of course, right? But, we see Mayor Scott now and other lawmakers with a more reactive approach. And they don't have the foresight, right, to understand the impact of a lot of the policies that they're putting in place. And again, this is why I've been saying, hey, we need an after-action report on a lot of the policies that have been put in place to enable a lot of these actions. What happens with the criminal element is they know the law, right? We don't give them as much credit as they deserve, because they understand these things, right? So you have, a lot of those in the criminal element using younger and younger people to commit crimes. You see the car thefts and those type of things going up, and again, they just know the law. But to Mayor Scott's point about, we have some of the strictest gun laws in the state. So why don't we have some of the safest streets, right? And why don't the places that the guns are coming from, why aren't they seeing the same crime that we're seeing right here in Baltimore? If the gun laws are working, and if we have the best, then why aren't they working in the city, in the streets of Baltimore? And why don't people feel safe?
I think you really pretty much laid it out there. I really feel for the parents who send their kids to school and expect them to be safe. And it's one of those issues that I think, like you said, we can't wait. Right.
We can't wait. And I just imagine that parent. I had a couple of neighbors that were there that night. And I have a good friend that's a director of a department, and the stuff that he had to go through, sheltering his kids and protecting his kids, his students, from what was going on, just the amount of trauma that could cause. So I don't wish that on anyone, but we need more proactive leadership to understand that we need tougher penalties. There has to be consequences, and they have to be enforced.
I'll leave it right there. Thank you, Giovanni.
Thank you.
All right, well, the Orioles with a disappointing loss to the Texans for Game 1, but they're not done yet, you guys. Up next, we talk to some fans about their excitement for the first O's playoff berth in 7 years.
Exactly. Orioles far from done, and you know what? The cold air rolling in behind our frontal boundary is far from done with us as well. We talk about how we struggle temperature-wise today to get above 60 and just how cold it'll be to start your Monday morning. It's right here on Fox 45 Morning News on the other side of this break.
All right, we're back with a live look over Camden Yards this morning, where the Orioles, they're coming off a loss to the Rangers. But look, it's just game one of the ALDS. They are not done yet. Rocco DeSangro has a look at the rest of the series.
The road to postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
They say good things come to those who wait. Well, after a 7-year postseason drought, the O's are back and they took the field for game one of the ALDS in front of a sellout crowd at Camden Yards. O's ace Kyle Bradish on the mound, and the Rangers got two off of him in the fourth. Jonah Heim's RBI single makes it 2-0. Let's go to the sixth. 2-1 Rangers. Josh Young gonna homer off Jacob Webb to make it a 3-1 ball game. But the Orioles, they're good at being down, and they have done so this season. Resilient group. Anthony Santander with a monster shot of his own that ignites the crowd at Camden Yards. Just look at the scene. Check out the action. But the Rangers take game one 3-2. Morgan Adsit is at Camden Yards with more on what went wrong for the Birds.
Postseason baseball finally returned to Camden Yards for the first time in 9 years. Just not the outcome this club or fan base, 46,000 plus, wanted to see in game one of the ALDS.
That was a really good baseball game. I thought the environment was unbelievable, and it was really loud, especially early in the game and start the game. I thought the environment was awesome. So thank you for all the fans for showing up. That was a special environment for our guys to play, and I just thought we got beat.
The Rangers took game one 3-2. In large part, the damage was done in the fourth inning off starter Kyle Bradish in his postseason debut. 2 runs off 5 hits in that frame for one of his shortest outings this season, 4 2/3. That, with a combination of cold O's bats, and the loss was theirs in game one.
I was just thinking to myself, it's not the first time I ever lost the first game of a series and we came out on top. So, continuing to stay positive, learn from this one, be prepared for tomorrow.
It is not must-win mode for the Orioles on Sunday in Game 2, but it has that feel. That is the only game guaranteed the rest of this postseason at Camden Yards. And Grayson Rodriguez will make his postseason debut in the start against the same team he made his Major League debut in back in April. Reporting at Camden Yards, I'm Morgan Adsit for Sports Unlimited.
Thank you, Morgan. So the Rangers take a 1-0 lead in the best-of-5 series. Grayson Rodriguez, like Morgan said, gets the ball for game 2 as the O's look to even things up. First pitch today is scheduled for 4:07 p.m. That's your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro.
Thanks, Morgan. Thanks, Rocco. Even though the Birds started off with a disappointing loss, well, those fans did not hesitate to show off their playoff excitement ahead of game 1. I went to Camden Yards yesterday. Just take a look at this. A lot of Orioles pride. It's plays like these rolled by star sophomore pitcher Adley Rutschman.
And he will do just that.
And runs like these from George Mateo that have reinstilled confidence in O's fans.
We waited so long for the Orioles to be what they are.
AL East Division champions, and for the first time in 7 years.
Come on, this is our year! Let's go!
Competing for the American League Division title.
Young and they're fun.
And good enough to turn a competitor.
I'm a Yankees fan.
Into a believer.
I know. But I'm wearing an Adley Rutschman shirt.
Adley is the guy. He's the guy. He's the guy. Grayson Rodriguez on the mound. Big moment at home.
Vets and rookies alike that are putting the O's and Baltimore back on the map.
This means everything. This means everything for the city. This means everything for the fans that were Oriole fans since they were 8 years old and watched the Melvin Moras, watched the Luke Scotts of the world. Let's go, Birds!
Paving the way for younger fans like
2 Beer Nate
and some early celebration dances.
Baltimore has always come out for their Orioles, even in those lean years.
But this certainly isn't one of them. From the locker room to the tailgate, that O's magic strong enough to score some love from even a Rangers fan.
Rangers!
Make no mistake, it's no holds barred from the stand.
I'll get real loud! Real loud! Because the O's deserve the loudness! They know we need to get loud! Let's go O's!
That was my good friend, Two Beer Nate, bringing the energy yesterday. All right, coming up, we got more Orioles coverage of the playoff berth and how they're looking today for the rematch. But first, researchers in Texas identify a potential new threat to your health. After the break, Spotlight on America investigates a cancer-causing chemical found in the water supply. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News Weekend Edition, all local, all morning. All right, listen up to this. We've got some alarming information from researchers in Texas who found thousands of pounds of cancer-causing chemicals in the water supply. In this Spotlight on America, Chris Daniels investigates the toxic threat to your health.
Industry looms over the city of Port Arthur, Texas, long the home of some of the nation's biggest chemical and oil facilities.
If it's about pipelines, importing and exporting, it's all in play right here in Port Arthur, in Southeast Texas, in the belly of the beast.
John Beard worked in the petroleum industry for nearly 4 decades and now has become one of its biggest critics here on the Gulf Coast. He believes the chemical and energy plants lining this waterfront of the Neches River are leaking toxic substances into the water and soil that this community was built on. It's turned this river basin into one of the most polluted waterways in the country, endangering the lives of tens of thousands of people here.
I've had people tell me about times that the water looked like it had a foam on it, like a head of beer. And then I've had water, my own water, that came out looking cloudy.
According to a new report that examined pollution in the nation's waterways, there were nearly 6,700 pounds of cancer-causing chemicals that were released into the lower Neches watershed in 2020 alone. But the problem of toxic dumping spills far beyond Texas.
Do you think most Americans even know what's going on?
No, they don't.
John Rumpler authored that national report, and he told us he discovered a wide range of factories and plants have been leaking into our waterways for years.
What we found looking at self-reported data is that they released nearly 200 million pounds of toxic chemicals to our rivers and other waterways. Some of those chemicals are linked to cancer, birth defects, developmental hazards for children.
His research put Texas at the top of the list for the most total toxic substances released, followed by Indiana, Virginia, Louisiana, and Alabama. Among the worst offenders, an Army ammunition plant, metal mining facilities, and electric utility companies. The report makes the case that the 50-year-old Clean Water Act, designed to protect our nation's waterways from precisely this kind of threat, has not delivered on its promise.
We've made progress, but there's far too much toxic pollution that companies are still dumping into America's waters.
Well, based on your data, it's not even close.
Correct.
Are the penalties strong enough?
I think that the Clean Water Act provides for very strong penalties. Whether state officials choose to go for those aggressive penalties or just give polluters a slap on the wrist is another story.
Port Arthur is a city of 55,000 people, where 75% are black or Latino. It's long been known that communities of color often face the most exposure to pollution and the health effects that come with it. Here in Port Arthur, John Beard told us he believes there's already a cancer cluster forming.
Port Arthur is a sacrifice zone, and it has to end if we're going to make people healthier and safer and have a better environment for all.
For Spotlight on America, I'm Chris Daniels.
Weather-wise, it is off to a sunny start this morning here in Baltimore as we take a look at the site of that epic battle yesterday afternoon, Camden Yards. Close one, so close. Temperature-wise out there this morning, feeling much more like fall. 51 degrees right now at BWI, but really not feeling that warm because we do have still a bit of a stout west wind, and so the wind chill factor is lower than these numbers would otherwise suggest, although even these numbers quite a bit cooler than the warm air we've had in place for really the last week or so. You can see 49 now in Elk Ridge and 50 up in Bel Air. Most spots feeling like the mid to low 40s, though, on a northwesterly west wind here that continues to bring in the cool air out of Canada, really. So it is a crisp fall-like start this morning. Wind chill factors, again, you see those mid-40s in places like La Plata, out at Deep Creek Lake, feeling like the 30s this morning. Definitely a taste of true fall in the air. These numbers represent, by the way, almost a 20-degree drop in spots from this same time yesterday morning. So it's clear and dry today, sunshine, pretty nice Sunday overall, but we have to deal with the chill. And so it is a great one to have that hot beverage in hand and have that fleece as maybe you head out to a friend's house or your favorite venue to check out the Ravens games this afternoon as we take on Pittsburgh up there in Three River Stadium. It's going to be a clear one up that way as well. Maybe just a few fair weather clouds. Much chillier, though, up in western PA, probably feeling like 40s all day long with the wind. Partly cloudy skies. That's the story. I think we're going to see a lot of sunshine, not just today, but the next several days. High pressure builds in, so keep the sunglasses handy just about all week long. And also keep the extra layer handy, at least each morning this week as we get those overnight chills in effect. You know, the air is now very dry. This is a big high pressure bubble with our cold front well offshore. And so that very dry air cools off very quickly. Even though we'll push up just above 60 today, tonight temperatures plummet down into the 40s, even the 30s by first thing on your Monday morning. So certainly we'll feel that. Then into the low 60s on your Monday. But again, the next several nights will be rather chilly. Now, warm weather fans, well, we've got a little bonus for you here toward midweek. I think we do bounce back into, say, the mid to upper 70s Wednesday and Thursday. Keep in mind, this time of year, our average high should be right around 70 to 72, so this is not really unusual. Lots of sunshine, bit of a warm-up. Next cool down, next weather maker with some rain likely toward the start of next weekend.
The president of the Randallstown NAACP speaking out about the juvenile crime crisis. Coming up, we ask him what he thinks needs to be done to curtail it. And later today, a suitcase drive to support vulnerable youth populations, where you can donate to help foster kids in Maryland. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News Weekend Edition, all local, all morning. All right, happening today, Family Feud host Steve Harvey and his wife, Marjorie, are hosting their annual suitcase drive to benefit foster kids in Maryland. The 8th annual drive will provide kids in foster care with toiletries and brand new luggage to use as they travel from home to home. That's happening today at 4 p.m. in Parkville. Israel declaring war after a surprise attack from Hamas militants. We have an update on the death toll and how the White House is responding. Stick with us here. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Starting off right now with a live look over Jerusalem this morning, where Israel has declared war. This is after yesterday's surprise attack in Palestine by Palestine militant groups Hamas. Thanks for joining us this morning here on Sunday, October 8th. I'm Taylor Stewart. In just a few minutes, we're going to take a closer look at that conflict as the death toll continues to rise there. Let's first get a check of your weather, though. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart with a look at what we're expecting today, and those temperatures a lot lower than I think we were talking about a few days ago.
Yeah, I mean, big change, right, Taylor? We feel it in the air this morning. If you stepped outside already, maybe to let the dogs out or go grab the newspaper, yeah, you feel it. Low 40s in many spots have now warmed up at least to the low 50s as we look here across the area. But these numbers also feeling a little cooler than this because like 45 in Cockeysville, when you add a west breeze 5 to 15, some spots gusting a little higher, yeah, the wind chill factor is going to be colder than that. So it feels like 40 now in Columbia, feels like just 47 in Elkton on that breeze. Clear skies today. That's the good news. Lots of sunshine. That'll help temperatures rebound into the low 60s by this afternoon. However, just know that with the wind, that's going to feel a little cooler than that. Keep the fleece on. Keep the hot beverage in hand. We'll talk more about how things set up for the first part of the week. It's coming up.
Making headlines this morning, the death toll in Israel has risen to 600. This is after yesterday's surprise attack by Palestinian militant group Hamas. Now, in Gaza, the Palestinian Health Ministry says at least 313 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 2,000 wounded here. Fox 45's Vincent Hill has more on the ongoing conflict and how the White House is now responding.
Chaos and bloodshed across southern Israel on Saturday after the Palestinian militant group Hamas launched its largest attack on Israel in years. Hamas firing thousands of rockets into southern Israel. Israel's missile defense system, the Iron Dome, trying to intercept as many of those rockets as possible. Hamas firing unrelenting barrages at different angles and at different times, trying to overwhelm those defensive systems. These attacks were combined with ground forces invading Israeli settlements. Israel confirming that Hamas militants have taken an untold number of soldiers and civilians hostage. Hamas claims to have enough captives to force Israel to release all of the Palestinian prisoners in its jails. The leader of Hamas says they are prepared to expand the fight to Jerusalem and the West Bank. Israel says the attacks are a declaration of war quickly firing back with airstrikes of its own into Palestinian territory and calling up hundreds of thousands of reserve troops.
Our enemy will pay a price the type of which it has never known. We are in a war, and we will win it.
President Biden, speaking from the White House Saturday, condemning the violence.
Israel has the right to defend itself and its people. Full stop. This is not a moment for any party hostile to Israel to exploit these attacks to seek advantage. The world is watching.
Israel is raising its posture on a number of fronts, with this fight still in the early stages.
Now, right now, Hamas says its fighters are still present in the southern Israel cities. Joining us now to talk about the current situation, Director of Global Studies at Loyola University, Dr. Mary Kate Schneider. Good morning.
Good morning.
This has gotten bad. How bad can this get? How long do you think it will last as this conflict ramps up in Israel?
This is already one of the deadliest weekends in Israel's history, and it could get pretty bad. As far as how long it will last, it depends on how you define that. The ground combat could end pretty quickly. Israel Defense Forces are exceptionally capable, and Israel has a more sophisticated military than Hamas, full stop. But that's why terrorism exists as a tactic. And this is an asymmetric conflict where one side is much more conventionally powerful than the other. And so the other side, in this case, it's Hamas, will resort to unconventional methods in order to advance their cause. And so that could and likely will go on for a long time.
I mean, Israel has declared war now. How does this impact the global community?
The most negative impact will be felt by civilians, both Israeli and Palestinian. And we already have a tremendous refugee crisis in the Middle East stemming from this conflict, and this is not going to improve the situation. It will get worse. We also really have to worry about disrupting the delicate balance of power within the Middle East. And so at the UN General Assembly last month, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said that Israel sought to normalize relations with Saudi Arabia, which in the long run is a great step forward in terms of peace in the Middle East. But in the interim, it could get very messy and already has, triggering Palestinian concerns. I think it's reasonable, it makes sense that Palestinians and Hamas in particular would be concerned that Israel is going to normalize relations with Saudi Arabia, traditionally a quiet supporter of Hamas.
I mean, the images that are coming out are really, really hard to watch. President Biden has come out and said we're standing with Israel. What should be our responsibility as a country as we see this unfold across the pond?
Well, Israel is one of our strongest allies. And so for the United States has an obligation to stand with its allies. And so at this point, I think that the United States has to engage, has to take this seriously, has to think critically, both in terms of the State Department as well as the National Security Council, in terms of what sort of diplomatic approaches we can take to try to diffuse the situation. So we have to engage.
All right, we'll leave it there. Hundreds dead, thousands injured. Something we'll be watching definitely as this unfolds here. Thank you, Dr. Mary Kate Schneider.
Thank you.
Outrage from NAAC President Ryan Coleman over Baltimore's juvenile crime crisis. After multiple shootings involving teens, what he's asking the governor to do to stop it.
And much cooler fall-like air blasting its way into Maryland this morning. Cold front offshore now. We'll talk about what we can anticipate for some of those very cold overnight lows straight ahead, right here on Fox 45 Morning News.
The president of the Randallstown NAACP is speaking out about the juvenile crime crisis, saying they will not put up with this any longer. Fox 45's Vincent Hill sat with him to discuss how he wants the governor to react and address the issue.
We should be outraged. I mean, we should be doing all we can do to stop this.
Outrage from NAACP President Ryan Coleman over Baltimore's juvenile crime crisis, including the multiple mass shootings involving teens.
4 or 5 people being shot at a time is almost the norm here in Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, it's out of hand. And whatever we're doing isn't working and isn't effective enough.
Coleman calling on Governor Westmore to do more.
The crime issue is a big political issue.
So what's your message to the governor when it comes to the crime that's going on here in Baltimore?
As far as some of the juvenile justice laws, I think we have an obligation to look at those, you know, to see if they're contributing to what's going on. The police are saying they are, others are saying they're not. So let's get what the facts are and see, and if it is, how can we tweak those? The juvenile justice, the car thefts, a lot of that is individuals from Baltimore City.
Many of those juveniles released to their parents.
I think we need to start holding these juveniles accountable. A lot of ways, they're the way they are because of their parents. So why would we release them to their parents with no resources? But is it really controversial that if a juvenile steals a car 3 and 4 times, that they shouldn't be on home monitoring, that they shouldn't be placed in a residential facility?
According to Baltimore police, juvenile violent crime is up 50%, and the violence appears to be the norm.
We can't have it become normal, where a 15-year-old is killed outside of a school and it's a one-day conversation.
Referring to the murder of Rashid Maxwell, shot and killed near Gilmore Elementary.
We cannot keep giving them a little tap on the hand and then not provide resources.
All right, here's a look at today's America's Steals and Deals.
The following segment is sponsored by Knocking.
I don't like to clean. There, I said it. Do you feel like you're cleaning constantly and somehow there's still dust everywhere? I live in the desert and everything is dusty all the time. It's just part of life. Well, that dust could be hiding and raining down from one of those hard to reach areas like your ceiling fan. You know it's dusty up there, but it's always such a hassle to clean. Problem solved. This is the Blade Maid. It's specially designed to remove dust from those tricky areas like your ceiling fan. The cleaning head is uniquely crafted to capture dirt and dust from all sides of your blades all at once. It makes it kind of fun. Trapping debris in its microfiber, machine washable pads so it's not getting all over the rest of your house, making you have to clean again. And watch this. The telescoping handle makes ladders virtually unnecessary. Plus, if you don't have a ceiling fan, you can still use the Blade Maid because the head transforms to a pad that you can clean vents and baseboards and other hard-to-reach nooks and crannies. Last week, I was up on a ladder in my living room, hoping not to break my neck, trying to knock down spider webs and dust. It was a pain. I wish I had one of these at the time. Right now, we're offering 30% off the Blade Maid. Head to asadeals.com for this exclusive offer.
Sorry, I'm talking to meteorologist Wyatt Everhart, and we're going to talk to him right now because, well, the weather. Look, I mean, it's cooler than it was a few days ago. Like, you need a jacket now. You really can't leave the house without one.
No, it's just got that extra chill quality this morning because mainly the wind, actually, even though the sun is out, that kind of helps moderate things a little bit. We've got 51 now at the airport downtown, right around 52, 53. And the west wind is, 13, gusting 20. Wind's going to pick up a little bit here through the midday, so we stay crisp. No question about that. Crisp and brisk fall weather. That's the story on this Sunday. That west wind behind that front that came through yesterday brought the rain in, cleared out just in time for the game. Game didn't finish exactly the way we wanted, obviously, but it was a good battle, and it was good weather for the most part yesterday afternoon. This morning, we're talking about wind chill factors down in the 40s as those temperatures have dropped in some spots 20 degrees, 15 to 20 degrees from the same time yesterday morning. So that is a potent autumn cool front, my friends. So you're out walking the dog today or taking the baby out in the stroller. You're looking at a generally sunny scenario, but one you got to layer up the little one and yourself because, again, that wind chill factor will be prominent. You're going for a run, maybe this is the first time you break out the Under Armour base layer, right, to run even during the day because we do have that chill. A little bit of lake effect rain shower activity out toward Pittsburgh today. I think it's going to stay north of Three River Stadium, so the Ravens look to play in clear weather on the road. Always a battle there, but it looks like just a cool and sunny day at Three River, a little cooler than it'll be around here. Mostly sunny skies for Maryland today, tomorrow, into the midweek. It is another quiet stretch of weather overall, but we do note that the nighttime temperatures are going to be really low overnight tonight and even into Monday night just because of this very dry air dome in place. Get this really low humidity, and that's where temperatures can drop sharply after sunset. That's what we're going to see this week. So we struggle up to 60, 63 today, but then tonight down in the 30s around Baltimore and western Maryland. Could see a little frost. How's that? Hagerstown West, I think there could be a little frost out there. Tomorrow during the day, we'll see temperatures rebound somewhat into the low mid-60s before we peel down into the 50s late afternoon. The overall trend is a warming one by day, at least, as we see the numbers into the upper 70s toward the latter part of the week. Certainly Wednesday into Thursday look like the warmest part, but we see another weather maker doing next weekend. Showers likely then, and also another batch of cool autumn air.
Welcome into your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. The O's 7-year postseason drought officially over, and Birdland flocked to Camden Yards to show their support to the team that gave them a new sense of hope. Seeing that place packed, it's something special. And the sellout crowd of 46,000 plus was rocking for Game 1 of the ALDS. O's ace Kyle Bradish on the mound, and he was grooving early on. Gets Josh Young swinging to end the top half of the second. Check out the camera angle. Great point of view there. 9 strikeouts on the day for Bradish, but in the fourth, the Rangers jumped on him for 2. Evan Carter doubles down the right field line to bring in Adolis Garcia. 1-0 Rangers. The very next batter's Jonah Heim, and he comes up with a big RBI single to make it 2-0 Rangers. Short outing for Bradish, 4 2/3, 2 earned on 7 hits. He did strike out 9. In the bottom half of the inning, Ryan Mountcastle doubles to left to score Anthony Santander. And just check out the crowd at Camden Yards. They erupted. Makes it 2-1. Look at the rally towels. Love it. To the 6th we go. Jacob Webb pitching for the O's. Josh Young takes him yard. 4-0-3 to center. Rangers take a 3-1 lead. Bottom half of the frame. Santander with a monster shot of his own. And just check out the crowd. I can't emphasize it enough. I mean, it is great when Camden Yards is rocking. What a scene. But it's not enough in this one as the Rangers take Game 1 by a final score of 3-2. So the O's fall in Game 1, dropping the first of this best-of-5 series. But it's a game where they were in until the very end and had plenty of chances to win. Morgan Adson is at Camden Yards with more on what went wrong.
World Series champion with the Chicago Cubs, now Orioles manager Brandon Hyde, told me before October baseball got underway it takes 2 things to win a World Series: good defense and starting pitching. The O's were lacking the latter today. In Game 1 of the ALDS, starter Kyle Bradish in his postseason debut had one of his shortest outings of the season, 4 2/3. One bad inning came in the 4th, 5 hits and 2 runs, and that was the difference that allowed Texas to take a 1-0 series lead.
We gave up a couple runs there in the 4th, but I thought he was still throwing the ball well, mainly some singles, some ground ball singles, and I didn't think he was as sharp as he's usually, but he punched out 9 and had really good stuff.
It also didn't help Bradish that he didn't have run support in Game 1. The O's had chances late in the 8th and 9th, but the Orioles lineup with some big bats were silenced. Austin Hayes, Adley Rutschman, and Cedric Mullins were all hitless. The opposite for Anthony Santander. He was 2 for 3 with a home run and a walk in the O's 3-2 loss.
We went out there and just took our at-bats. I mean, the ball doesn't fall the way it wanted to. Sometimes it's just baseball.
Coming up in big moments, it can't happen every time. You know, it just is what it is. So, you know, preparing for tomorrow, locking in on opportunities when they arrive, and, you know, trying to execute them.
So now the focus shifts to Game 2 on Sunday. Grayson Rodriguez has the start in his postseason debut. We will eventually see Dean Kramer and Kyle Gibson starting for the Birds this week. Brandon Hyde has not released the order of those starts, but there will be no John Means in the O's rotation for the ALDS. Left off the roster with elbow soreness suffered during workouts. They hope to have him back if they advance to the ALCS. Reporting at Camden Yards, I'm Morgan Adsett for Sports Unlimited.
Thank you, Morgan. This is what the remaining ALDS schedule looks like. Back at it again today for Game 2 at 4. And the two teams will head to Texas for Game 3 on Tuesday at 8:03 p.m. You can catch the action right here on Fox 45, followed by the if necessary games. 4 would be played in Texas, 5 would be back here in Baltimore. Fox 45 is your home for the 2023 World Series. The action begins Friday, October 27th. You can watch every single game right here, Fox 45. It might be week 5 on the schedule, but the Ravens-Steelers rivalry is unlike any regular season game. This game brings the best out of both teams, players, and coaching staffs, and it's one that means just a bit more. Just listen to Mark Andrews talk about it.
You know, we talk about being lasered in week by week, and you know, obviously the Ravens-Steelers game is you know, one of the best rivalries in the world, and you know, if you're not ready for a game like this, you know, what are you doing? But for us, being able to focus out here on practice, knowing what to do, visualize the moment, and make the plays when they come.
5-0 for the first time in 22 years. Maryland football faced its toughest challenge yet in 4th-ranked Ohio State. A win over the Buckeyes, it would be huge for the Terps, and they looked really good early on. Urban Meyer had a front-row seat for this unbelievable catch. Talia Tungavailoa fires it to the end zone. Caden Prater, how in the world? Defender draped all over him. Prater only needs one hand to haul it in. 7-0 Terps. Tied at 10 in the 3rd. Leah looking, decides to use his legs, and he cruises in for 6, his 3rd straight game with at least 1 passing touchdown and 1 rushing touchdown. Terps take the lead, but Ohio State took the lead back and never looked back. Kyle McCord dials up Cade Stover for the 44-yard score. Talia 196 yards passing, 2 picks, and 2 total touchdowns as Ohio State hands Maryland its first loss, 37-17. That'll do it for this edition of Sports Unlimited. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Have a great Sunday.